Hello everyone. Welcome back to Naruto Fix. Today we have another interesting What If Naruto story. Which is what if Naruto was chosen by fate to become the husband of the strongest women in the ninja world. Part 1. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content. Now, without wasting any time, let's begin. The morning sun had barely risen over the Hidden Leaf village when an unnatural silence spread across the sky. Birds stopped singing. The wind froze in place. Even the leaves hanging from the tallest trees refused to move. Every ninja in the village instinctively looked upward, sensing an overwhelming pressure unlike anything they had ever experienced. Inside the Hokage office, Tsunade stood by the window, her emerald eyes narrowing. What is this chakra? Beside her, Shizune trembled. It doesn't belong to any tailed beast. Miles away at Mount Myoboku, the great toad sage suddenly opened his ancient eyes. His expression, usually calm, was filled with disbelief. The wheel of fate has begun to turn. Every great sage across the world, whether in the snake caves, the slug forest, or forgotten ruins hidden beneath ancient kingdoms, felt the same phenomenon. A prophecy sealed for thousands of years had awakened. Meanwhile, Naruto Uzumaki remained completely unaware of everything. He was running through the streets with a piece of toast hanging from his mouth. I'm gonna be late again. He crashed directly into Hinata Hyuga. Oh, Naruto-kun. Hinata stumbled backward, her face turning bright red. I'm sorry, Hinata. Naruto laughed while scratching the back of his head. The moment their hands touched, a brilliant golden symbol appeared on Naruto's palm. At the same instant, another glowing mark appeared on Hinata's wrist. Boom! A pillar of golden light erupted into the heavens. The entire village shook violently. Everyone looked toward Naruto. The glowing mark disappeared within seconds, but the damage had already been done. Hidden deep beneath the Hokage monument, inside a chamber that had remained sealed since the era of the Sage of Six Paths. Massive stone doors slowly opened. Ancient torches ignited one after another. An enormous stone tablet floated into the air. Its surface rewrote itself in glowing golden letters. The chosen husband of fate has awakened. Quote, far beyond the 5 great nations. Inside a forgotten temple surrounded by endless mountains. An old woman wearing white robes slowly smiled. So, the child has finally appeared. Behind her stood dozens of women. Each possessed terrifying chakra. Each was strong enough to destroy entire countries alone. Some had crimson eyes. Others carried celestial markings. One possessed silver hair flowing to the ground. Another wore armor forged from meteorite steel. Every single one of them had rejected marriage throughout their lives. Not because they hated men, but because destiny had forbidden them from choosing anyone. The old priestess raised her hand. The seal of destiny has broken. Quote, one warrior frowned. Does that mean? The old woman nodded. Yes. The man destined to become the husband of the strongest women in history has finally been born. Silence filled the temple. Another woman laughed confidently. If he's worthy, I'll claim him myself. A blue-haired swordswoman crossed her arms. And if he isn't? The old priestess smiled. Then none of you will survive fate's judgment. Every smile disappeared instantly. Back in Konoha, Naruto scratched his head. Why is everyone staring at me? Sakura Haruno smacked him. Idiot. Didn't you see that giant beam of light? I thought it was lightning. Sakura sighed. You really are hopeless. Quote. Before anyone could speak again, a masked Anbu appeared. Naruto Uzumaki. The 5th Hokage requests your immediate presence. Naruto gulped. What did I do this time? Minutes later, inside the Hokage office. Tsunade stared directly into Naruto's eyes. Place your hand on the desk. Naruto obeyed. The instant his palm touched the wooden surface, golden runes spread across the desk. Ancient symbols filled the room. Even the walls began glowing. Shizune stepped backward in horror. This language, it disappeared before the first Hokage was even born. Tsunade slowly reached toward the symbols. The moment she touched them, visions flooded her mind. She saw enormous battlefields, unknown kingdoms, women wielding powers greater than the 5 Kage combined. Then, she saw Naruto standing at the center of them all. Each of those powerful women knelt before him, not as servants, but as partners bound by destiny. Tsunade gasped. No, this can't be real. Naruto blinked. Lady Tsunade. She looked at him differently now. Not as an annoying genin, but as someone whose existence could change the entire world. Elsewhere, inside the Akatsuki hideout, Pain suddenly opened his Rinnegan. What is this chakra? Conan looked toward the horizon. It feels older than the Sage of Six Paths. Before either could speak further. A mysterious black crow landed before them. It carried an ancient scroll. Pain unfolded it. Only one sentence was written. Protect the chosen one, or the world shall fall. Pain's eyes narrowed. Who sent this? Quote, no signature, no chakra, nothing. For the first time in years. Even Pain felt uncertainty, hidden within the Hyuga clan. Hinata stared at the glowing mark that had briefly appeared on her wrist. It had vanished. Yet she could still feel warmth lingering there. Her younger sister, Hanabi Hyuga, noticed her expression. Sister, what's wrong? Hinata quietly shook her head. I don't know, but when Naruto-kun touched my hand. Quote, it felt as though destiny itself recognized him. Hanabi raised an eyebrow. That's impossible. Even as she said it, she couldn't explain why her own heart suddenly raced at the mention of Naruto's name. That same night, Naruto lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling. So weird. First that light, then Lady Tsunade acting strangely. He yawned. Within minutes, he fell asleep. But this wasn't an ordinary dream. He found himself standing in an endless golden world. Countless stars floated around him. Footsteps echoed behind him. Naruto turned around. A breathtaking woman dressed in celestial robes approached him. Her silver eyes glowed like moons. Her beauty surpassed anything Naruto had ever seen. She smiled gently. So, after thousands of years, I've finally met you. Naruto pointed at himself. Me, she nodded. Naruto Uzumaki, you have been chosen by fate itself. He laughed awkwardly. Sorry, I think you've got the wrong guy. The woman chuckled. No, I have searched through every era, every timeline, quote, every possible future, and in every world, you are the only man capable of carrying the destiny bond. Naruto frowned. What bond? The woman's expression became serious. The strongest women of the ninja world were never meant to belong to kings. Quote, legends. They were always destined to stand beside one man. Naruto swallowed nervously. Quote, Who? The woman stepped closer and gently touched his forehead. A brilliant golden circle expanded across the dreamscape. You, the husband chosen by fate. Suddenly, Naruto saw countless faces flash before his eyes. Tsunade, Hinata, Sakura, mysterious warriors from distant lands, powerful kunoichi he had never seen before, and even women whose chakra rivaled gods. All of them were connected to him by glowing golden threads stretching across the heavens. Before he could understand what it meant, the entire dream shattered like glass. Naruto jolted awake, breathing heavily. Outside his window, the first rays of dawn appeared. He had no idea that somewhere beyond the borders of the 5 great nations, the strongest women in existence had already begun their journey toward Konoha. And with every step they took, the balance of the ninja world moved one step closer to an unavoidable destiny. Naruto sat on the edge of his bed for several minutes, unable to calm his racing heart. The dream had felt too real. He could still remember the warmth of the celestial woman's touch and the countless golden threads connecting him to women he had never even met. Quote, Chosen by fate, he muttered. He shook his head and laughed nervously. Guess I ate too much ramen before sleeping. Trying to forget the strange dream, Naruto quickly got dressed and headed toward the training ground. Unknown to him, far above the clouds, a massive golden wheel slowly rotated in the heavens. Every time it completed a turn, another golden thread extended toward a powerful woman somewhere in the world. The wheel of destiny had begun choosing. And it could never be stopped. Deep beneath the hidden leaf village. The ancient chamber hidden below the Hokage monument continued glowing. Thousands of old seals covered the walls. Most of them had faded with time. But today, every single seal was active. Tsunade stood before the floating stone tablet along with the village elders and several Anbu captains. Nobody dared to speak. The tablet slowly revealed another sentence. 7 thrones, 7 queens, 1 husband. Immediately afterward, 7 glowing stars appeared above the text. Each represented a woman. The identities remained hidden. Only one thing was certain. Every one of them possessed strength capable of changing history. Shizune swallowed nervously. Lady Tsunade, what does this mean? Tsunade slowly answered. It means, someone is coming. Meanwhile, beyond the land of fire, a lone woman stood atop a frozen mountain. Long silver hair danced behind her. Her eyes resembled the northern lights. She wore white armor decorated with dragon scales. At her waist rested a sword that had never once tasted defeat. She was known across forgotten kingdoms as the Frost Empress. Kings feared her. Armies avoided her. She had never lost a battle. For decades she had ignored every marriage proposal sent by emperors, daimyos, and legendary warriors alike. Suddenly, a golden mark appeared on the back of her hand. She froze. The mark formed the same spiral symbol that had appeared on Naruto's palm. Her calm expression cracked for the first time in years. So, the prophecy is true. Without another word, she sheathed her sword. Konoha, I suppose it's finally time. Snowstorms followed behind her as she disappeared. Elsewhere, an enormous desert stretched endlessly beneath the scorching sun. In its center stood a black fortress built from obsidian. Inside, a woman wearing crimson armor finished defeating an entire squad of elite mercenaries. Not one opponent remained standing. She didn't even appear tired. Everyone knew her by a single name. The Crimson Valkyrie. Before she could leave, the golden symbol appeared on her wrist. She stared silently, then smiled. So fate has finally remembered me. She grabbed her massive spear. Interesting. Back in Konoha, Naruto reached Training Ground 7. Waiting there were Kakashi Hatake, Sakura and Sasuke Uchiha. As usual, Kakashi arrived late. Sorry, a black cat crossed my path. Quote. Naruto rolled his eyes. Liar. Before Kakashi could answer, he suddenly looked toward Naruto. His visible eye narrowed. Naruto, come here. Naruto walked closer. Kakashi gently grabbed Naruto's wrist. Quote. His eye widened. The chakra inside Naruto felt completely different. Not stronger. Older. Far older. It reminded him of something even the Sharingan struggled to comprehend. Kakashi silently activated his Sharingan. Instantly, the world changed. Golden chains surrounded Naruto's body. Countless invisible threads stretched into the distance beyond every horizon. Kakashi immediately deactivated the Sharingan. Sweat formed on his forehead. Impossible. He had never seen chakra behave like that. Not even around the 9 tails. Naruto noticed his expression. Sensei. Quote. Are you okay? Kakashi forced a smile. I'm fine. But deep inside. He wasn't. Later that afternoon, word spread throughout the village about the mysterious pillar of light. Every clan head attended an emergency meeting. Among them were the leaders of the Hyuga, Nara, Akamichi, Yamanaka and Aburame clans. Arguments filled the room. It could be enemy genjutsu. No, it's ancient chakra. We should isolate Naruto. We should protect him. Tsunade slammed her fist onto the table. The room fell silent. No one touches Naruto. Until we know the truth. Everyone nodded reluctantly. That same moment, far away, a gigantic temple floating above the clouds awakened. It had remained hidden since the era before ninja villages existed. Massive stone guardians opened their glowing eyes. Ancient bells echoed throughout the sky. Inside the temple, 7 enormous crystal pillars illuminated simultaneously. Each pillar contained the image of a woman. One crystal was empty. Slowly, Naruto's face appeared inside it. The temple's caretaker, a mysterious old monk, fell to his knees. The final pillar has accepted its master. He immediately rang the temple bell. Its sound traveled across the entire world. Only those chosen by fate could hear it. Hinata suddenly stopped walking. Did you hear that? Kiba looked confused. Hear what? A bell. There wasn't any bell, Kiba replied. Hinata quietly touched her chest. For some reason, her heartbeat had synchronized with the distant sound. Inside the sand village, Tamari paused in the middle of training. A strange warmth spread across her hand. She looked down. A faint golden glow appeared for only a second. What was that? Even she couldn't explain why the image of Naruto suddenly crossed her mind. Inside the hidden mist, Mei Terumi stood on the balcony of the Mizukage's office. She sighed after rejecting yet another marriage proposal from a noble. I swear, why is everyone obsessed with marriage? Just then, the same mysterious golden symbol flashed beneath her glove. She frowned. Interesting. Back in Konoha, night arrived. Naruto sat alone on the Hokage monument. The village lights sparkled below. He couldn't stop thinking about the dream. Who was she? Suddenly, Kurama's deep voice echoed inside the seal. Brat. Naruto nearly jumped. Kurama. The Nine Tails had remained unusually quiet ever since the strange light appeared. Now his tone was more serious than Naruto had ever heard. I've lived since before your villages existed. I've witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Naruto waited silently. Kurama continued. But today's chakra, even I don't recognize it. Naruto's smile disappeared. You mean? You don't know what's happening. No, and that worries me. For the first time, the strongest tailed beast admitted uncertainty. Naruto stared toward the moon. If even Kurama was concerned, then whatever fate had chosen for him was far greater than becoming Hokage. Far beyond the stars, the celestial woman watched Naruto through a shimmering pool of light. She smiled softly. The first threads have awakened. But the true trial has not yet begun. Behind her, 6 more divine figures emerged from the shadows. One asked quietly, will he survive? She looked toward the spinning wheel of fate. He must. Because if the chosen husband falls, the 7 queens will become enemies. And the entire ninja world will drown in a war unlike anything history has ever recorded. The wheel of fate completed another full rotation. At that exact instant, a new golden thread shot across the heavens. Straight toward Konoha. The first ray of sunlight had barely touched the rooftops of Konoha when an invisible pulse spread across the village once again. Unlike the previous day, this wave carried no destructive force. Instead, every shinobi possessing exceptional chakra instinctively paused. Birds changed direction mid-flight. The deer in the Nara forest lowered their heads. Even the 9 tails inside Naruto slowly opened one crimson eye. Again, Kurama's deep voice echoed through the seal. Naruto, still lying on his bed, frowned. What now? The chakra. It has entered the village. Naruto immediately sat upright. What entered the village? Kurama didn't answer immediately. Instead, the massive fox remained completely silent for several seconds. When he finally spoke, his tone carried something Naruto had never heard before. Caution. Outside Konoha's main gate, 2 guards stood lazily chatting. It's been quiet lately. Yeah, I almost missed the... Before he could finish, the temperature suddenly dropped. Their breaths became visible. The grass beneath their feet slowly froze. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Soft footsteps echoed along the road. Out of the morning mist emerged a lone woman wearing a white cloak. Her silver hair flowed all the way to her waist. Despite the cold surrounding her, she wore no expression of discomfort. Her blue eyes calmly observed the enormous gates of the Hidden Leaf Village. One guard swallowed. Who are you? She stopped walking. I seek Naruto Uzumaki. The guards instantly became alert. And why? The woman looked toward the village. I have crossed 3 kingdoms, defeated 9 armies, and climbed the frozen Spine Mountains. I didn't come this far for conversation. The guards exchanged nervous glances. The chakra radiating from her alone made breathing difficult. One guard immediately disappeared in a body flicker. I'll inform Lady Tsunade. Quote. Meanwhile, inside the Hokage office, Tsunade had barely finished her morning paperwork when the Anbu captain burst inside. Hokage-sama, she frowned. What happened? A woman has arrived. So, quote. We've never encountered chakra like hers. Tsunade immediately stood. How strong? The captain hesitated. I can't measure it. That single sentence was enough. Within moments, Tsunade, Shizune, Kakashi, several Anbu squads, and numerous Jonin were already heading toward the village End trance. Naruto, completely unaware of everything, happily walked toward Ichiraku Ramen. I'm starving. Before he could take another step, Kakashi suddenly appeared in front of him. Naruto. Huh, you're coming with me. Why? No questions. Naruto sighed dramatically. I was gonna eat ramen. Later. Minutes later, Naruto arrived near the village gate. He blinked. So many people. Nearly every elite shinobi in Konoha stood there. Even members of the Hyuga clan had activated their Byakugan. The mysterious woman remained perfectly calm despite being surrounded. Then, her eyes landed on Naruto. Time seemed to freeze. The golden mark hidden beneath Naruto's sleeve suddenly burned. At exactly the same moment, a matching symbol appeared on the woman's wrist. Boom! A pillar of golden light exploded into the sky. Everyone instinctively jumped backward. The ground trembled violently. Naruto stumbled. What the? The woman slowly smiled. For the first time in years. A genuine smile. So, I finally found you. Naruto looked behind himself. Me? Yes. She slowly walked closer. No one dared stop her. Every step released waves of overwhelming chakra. Even Kakashi unconsciously placed one hand over his Sharingan. When she stood only 2 meters away, she knelt on one knee. Every ninja present froze. The strongest woman any of them had ever sensed was kneeling before Naruto. She lowered her head. I am Astria, guardian of the Northern Frost Kingdom, bearer of the first throne. Naruto scratched his head awkwardly. Quote. Nice to meet you. Astria raised her hand. The golden symbol glowed brilliantly. I have answered fate's call. Silence. Then she said the sentence that made everyone's heart stop. My future husband. Quote. Naruto's eyes nearly popped out of his head. Quote. What? The entire village exploded into chaos. What did she just say? Did I hear that right? Future husband. Sakura's jaw dropped. Ino fainted on the spot. Choji accidentally crushed the chips bag in his hand. Shikamaru simply muttered. Quote. Troublesome. Hinata had arrived only moments earlier. The instant she heard Astria's words, her heart skipped a beat. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. She looked at Naruto, then at Astria, for reasons she couldn't understand. A strange pain spread across her chest. She lowered her eyes. Quote. Naruto-kun. Hanabi quietly noticed her sister's reaction. Her own expression also became unusually serious. Tsunade stepped forward. Explain yourself. Astria stood. No. I mean explain why you called Naruto your future husband. Astria calmly answered. Because fate chose him. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Fate isn't a legal authority. Astria actually laughed. It is older than law. It existed before your nations. Before chakra. Before shinobi. Every person listening felt chills. Deep inside Naruto's seal, Kurama growled. Quote. She's telling the truth. Naruto mentally looked toward the giant fox. You know her. No. But I recognize the power surrounding her. Quote. What is it? Kurama's eyes slowly widened. Quote. Primordial fate chakra. Naruto blinked. Quote. Never heard of it. Neither has anyone alive. Astria slowly removed the white cloak covering her shoulders. Gasps echoed everywhere. She wore elegant silver armor engraved with ancient symbols. A beautiful longsword rested at her side. Unlike ordinary weapons, its blade emitted tiny snowflakes despite the warm weather. Kakashi instinctively reached for a kunai. He had faced countless S-rank criminals. Yet, this woman made even Itachi's chakra seem ordinary. Suddenly, the sky darkened. Everyone looked upward. Another golden thread descended from the heavens. This time, it landed directly on Astria. She closed her eyes. The bond has acknowledged our meeting. Naruto awkwardly rubbed the back of his neck. I still don't understand anything. Astria smiled gently. You will, in time. Far away, inside the floating temple of destiny. 6 crystal pillars began glowing brighter. The old monk slowly opened an ancient book. Another page turned by itself. New words appeared. The first queen has reached the chosen one. 6 remain. The monk closed his eyes. It has begun. Behind him, an enormous map of the world illuminated. 6 more lights started moving. Each one represented another woman traveling toward Naruto. Some crossed oceans. Some walked through deserts. Some descended from hidden celestial realms lost to history. And one light did not move at all. It was already inside Konoha. The monk's calm expression finally changed. Impossible. One of the 7 queens has been beside him from the very beginning. The revelation struck everyone present harder than any S-rank jutsu ever could. One of the 7 queens is already inside Konoha. The words echoed through the Temple of Destiny. While far away, none of the people in the hidden leaf realized that fate had already begun weaving its web around them. At Konoha's main gate, silence lingered for several long moments after Astria's declaration. Naruto pointed to himself again, as if hoping everyone had somehow misunderstood. You're talking about me? Astria nodded calmly. There is only one Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto let out an awkward laugh. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. I'm just a genin. I barely passed the academy. I don't even have a girlfriend. A faint smile appeared on Astria's face. You measure yourself by rank. Fate measures souls. Naruto blinked. I don't get it. I know. You aren't meant to. Not yet. Behind Naruto, Sakura finally snapped out of her shock. She walked between Naruto and Astria. Listen, I don't know who you are. But you can't just show up and claim Naruto as your future husband. Astria turned her gaze toward Sakura. There was no hostility, only calm confidence. I did not claim him. I acknowledge the decision that was made thousands of years before either of us existed. Sakura frowned. And who exactly made that decision? Astria looked toward the sky. The same force that governs life, death, time, and destiny. Even Sakura couldn't think of a response. Nearby, Kakashi quietly observed every word. He wasn't paying attention to the conversation. He was watching Naruto. Every few seconds, tiny streams of golden chakra escaped Naruto's body before disappearing into the air. Nobody else seemed capable of seeing them. Not even the Hyuga's Byakugan. Only the Sharingan could barely perceive them. Interesting. Deep inside Naruto's mind, Kurama remained unusually serious. Kid, what? Don't lower your guard. You think she's dangerous? No. That's exactly why I'm concerned. Naruto frowned. What does that mean? I've spent centuries sensing hatred. I know killing intent. I know greed. I know deception. He paused. But that woman possesses none of them. She's completely sincere. Naruto sighed. That's supposed to make me feel better. No, it makes this situation much worse. Back at the Hokage office, Tsunade ordered everyone inside. The meeting room quickly filled. Present were Kakashi, Shizune, the village elders, representatives from the Hyuga clan, several Anbu captains, and Astria. Naruto sat in the middle of the room looking completely lost. So, can someone finally explain what's happening? Nobody answered immediately. Instead, Astria reached inside her cloak. Several Anbu instantly aimed their weapons. She ignored them. Slowly, she placed an ancient crystal sphere onto the table. The sphere was perfectly transparent. Inside floated countless tiny stars. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. What is that? Astria answered softly. The memory orb. It contains the final message left by the first keeper of fate. Shizune looked confused. First keeper. Astria nodded. He lived before the Sage of Six Paths. Quote. The room fell silent. That should have been impossible. Astria gently placed her hand on the orb. Golden light flooded the room. The stars inside began spinning rapidly. Then, a voice echoed from the crystal. Ancient, calm, powerful. If this message has awakened, then the child of destiny has finally appeared. Everyone instinctively looked toward Naruto. The voice continued. The world has entered its final era. Quote, the 7 thrones shall awaken. The 7 queens shall gather. The chosen husband shall stand between salvation and destruction. Images suddenly appeared above the orb. Entire civilizations burned. Gigantic creatures larger than mountains walked across oceans. The 5 great nations no longer existed. Instead, the entire world was covered in war. Naruto stared silently. What happened? Astria quietly answered. This is the future that awaits if fate is rejected. The vision changed. Naruto now stood surrounded by 7 incredibly powerful women. None were kneeling. None were servants. They stood beside him as equals. Together, they faced an enormous shadow towering over the world itself. Even Kurama, watching from inside the seal, narrowed his eyes. Quote. Impossible. Naruto heard him. What? I know that creature. Quote. You do. Kurama's voice became quieter. It existed. Before humans. The vision disappeared. The crystal returned to normal. Nobody spoke. Finally, Tsunade broke the silence. So, who exactly are these 7 queens? Quote. Astria slowly shook her head. I know only fragments. Their identities remain sealed until each one meets the chosen. Then how do you know you're one of them? Astria raised her glowing wrist. The first throne recognizes only its queen. Quote. The mark shone briefly before fading. Elsewhere, far across the sea, a massive ship cut through violent waves. Standing at its bow was a woman with long crimson hair flowing behind her. Unlike Astria's calm presence. This woman's aura burned like wildfire. Several pirates surrounded her. Each wielded enormous weapons. Their captain laughed. Pretty lady, hand over everything you've got. She sighed. I warned you. Quote. The captain charged. 1 second later, a crimson flash illuminated the ocean. When the light disappeared, every pirate ship had been sliced cleanly in half. The sea itself remained divided for several hundred meters. The crimson-haired woman calmly continued walking across the shattered deck. Not a single drop of blood stained her clothes. Then, her wrist began glowing. She stopped. A smile slowly appeared. So, quote, you've awakened. Without hesitation, she changed the ship's course. Destination, the Hidden Leaf Village. Inside the Hidden Cloud Village, high atop a mountain temple, a young woman wearing black and gold robes suddenly opened her eyes during meditation. Lightning danced around her body. Unlike ordinary lightning, this energy emitted no sound. The monks surrounding her immediately knelt. Lady Reika, she slowly looked east. I felt it. The bond. One elderly monk lowered his head. Will you leave the temple? She stood. I have protected this sanctuary for 23 years. My duty has ended. Back in Konoha, the meeting finally concluded. Or rather, it ended because nobody had enough answers. Naruto walked outside alongside Kakashi. So, what now? Kakashi smiled beneath his mask. Life continues. Seriously. Until we know more. Naruto sighed. I guess. His stomach suddenly growled loudly. Astria, who had quietly followed them, tilted her head. Quote. What was that? Naruto rubbed the back of his head. I skipped breakfast. Astria looked genuinely confused. You fight destiny while hungry. Quote. Naruto laughed. I fight everything while hungry. For the first time, Astria laughed. It wasn't loud, nor elegant, just honest. Even Kakashi looked surprised. A woman capable of freezing battlefields. Was laughing because of Naruto. Minutes later, Naruto sat inside Ichiraku Ramen with Astria seated beside him. Old man Chuki looked between them. So, your girlfriend. Naruto nearly choked on his ramen. What? Astria answered before Naruto could. No, I am his destined wife. The entire ramen shop fell silent. Bowls slipped from Kustoma's hands. Naruto buried his face in both palms. This is never going away. Quote. Astria innocently looked at him. Why are you embarrassed? Because normal people don't introduce themselves like that. She tilted her head. Quote. How do normal wives introduce themselves? Naruto's face turned bright red. I said I'm not married. Even Ayame couldn't stop herself from laughing. For the first time since Astria arrived, the overwhelming atmosphere disappeared. She wasn't cold or arrogant. She was simply someone who believed destiny was as natural as breathing. However, far outside Konoha, hidden deep within the forest, a pair of crimson eyes watched the village from atop a giant tree. The mysterious observer had witnessed Astria's arrival, had seen the golden pillar, had heard the words, chosen husband. A faint smirk appeared beneath a black hood. So, the prophecy has finally begun. The figure disappeared into the darkness. Only one sentence remained echoing among the trees. Lord, the other kingdoms will not stay idle. The hunt for Naruto Uzumaki has officially begun. The words echoed through the dark forest long after the hooded figure had vanished. The hunt for Naruto Uzumaki has officially begun. The forest returned to silence. Yet hidden among the trees, dozens of pairs of glowing eyes slowly opened. Some belonged to rogue shinobi. Some to ancient guardians who had remained asleep for centuries. Others belonged to beings that weren't human at all. Each had received the same message. The chosen husband had awakened. Back in Konoha, Naruto had finally managed to finish his 6th bowl of ramen. He leaned back with a satisfied sigh. Now that's better. Across from him, Astria watched curiously. You consume an incredible amount of food. Naruto grinned. I've always been like this. She tilted her head slightly. You smile often. Yeah, even after discovering your life has completely changed. Naruto shrugged. Worrying doesn't solve anything. If something weird happens, I'll deal with it when it comes. Quote. Astria stared at him for several seconds. Then she quietly smiled. So that's why. Naruto blinked. Why what? She gently shook her head. Nothing. But deep inside, she understood something the ancient prophecy had never explained. The chosen husband wasn't selected because he was the strongest. He wasn't selected because of bloodline or talent. He had been chosen because, even when burdened by destiny, he still found reasons to smile. Far above the clouds, the celestial woman observed everything through a pool of golden light. One of the 6 divine figures standing behind her spoke. He hasn't realized it yet. No, he still believes his greatest dream is becoming Hokage. Quote. The celestial woman nodded, and that is why fate chose him. Another divine figure frowned. But when will you tell him about the crown? The woman's expression became serious. Not yet. If he learns the truth now. Quote. He will reject destiny. Meanwhile, inside the Hokage office, Tsunade paced back and forth. Kakashi leaned against the wall. The Hyuga clan head, Hiashi Hyuga, sat silently. Several scrolls lay open across the desk. Each had been retrieved from Konoha's oldest archives. Shizune sighed. None of them mention the 7 queens. Kakashi turned another page. Neither do these. Hiashi suddenly spoke. There is one place we haven't searched. Quote. Everyone looked toward him. The Hyuga clan's forbidden library. Tsunade frowned. I thought only the clan head could enter. Correct. And even I have never opened its deepest chamber. Why not? Hiashi looked toward the window. My father told me that the final chamber should only be opened when the heavens choose a king. The room fell silent. Tsunade slowly looked at Kakashi. Quote. We're going. Quote. That evening, Naruto wandered through the village with Astria. People continued staring at them. Children whispered. Shopkeepers peeked through windows. Naruto rubbed the back of his head. I've never had this much attention before. Quote. Astria looked around curiously. Your village is peaceful. It wasn't always. Naruto's smile faded slightly. But it's getting there. Astria noticed the change immediately. You've experienced loneliness. Quote. Naruto stopped walking. Quote. How did you know? I recognized that look. She looked toward the sunset. I wore it once. Naruto blinked. You. Astria nodded. I became queen at 16. My kingdom feared me. Quote. My enemies worshipped my strength. But no one saw me. As a person. Naruto quietly listened. I spent years surrounded by thousands of soldiers. Yet completely alone. Naruto smiled softly. I kinda understand that. For a few moments. Neither of them spoke. Elsewhere. Hidden beneath the Hyuga estate. Massive stone doors slowly opened. Dust filled the ancient hallway. Hiyashi carried a lantern. Behind him walked Tsunade, Kakashi, and Shizune. The corridor hadn't been entered for generations. Ancient murals covered both walls. The first mural showed the Hagoromo Otsutsuki. The second depicted enormous celestial dragons. The third made everyone stop. It showed a young man with spiky blonde hair standing beside 7 women. His face was damaged by time. But the hairstyle, the whisker marks, they were unmistakable. Naruto. Or someone who looked exactly like him. Shizune gasped. That's impossible. Kakashi stepped closer. No. Look carefully. The clothing was different. The hairstyle slightly longer. Yet the resemblance was undeniable. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. This mural is older than Konoha itself. Hiyashi whispered. Which means, someone who resembled Naruto existed thousands of years ago. Further inside, they reached a circular chamber. At its center stood a black stone pedestal. Resting upon it, was a single scroll wrapped in golden chains. The chains broke apart the moment Hiyashi approached. The scroll slowly opened by itself. Golden letters appeared. To the descendants of the White Eye. If this scroll has awakened, the chosen husband walks the earth once more. Tsunade's heartbeat quickened. Quote. Once more. The scroll continued. Do not mistake him for the first. Though they share a soul, they are not the same man. Kakashi's visible eye widened. A reincarnation. Hiyashi slowly continued reading. The first chosen failed. The second must not. Everyone froze. Naruto wasn't the first person chosen by fate. Someone before him had carried the same burden. And had failed. Outside the village, night had fallen. Astria and Naruto stood atop the Hokage monument. The stars shone brightly above them. Naruto folded his arms behind his head. You know, I still think this is all crazy. Astria looked at him. What part? Everything. Destiny. Queens. Future husband. Quote. I'm just Naruto. Astria answered without hesitation. And that is enough. Naruto laughed. You really have a lot of faith in me. She looked directly into his blue eyes. I crossed continents because of it. Quote. Before Naruto could respond, a sudden scream echoed from the forest surrounding Konoha. Then another. Then dozens more. The peaceful night shattered instantly. Anbu appeared across the rooftops. Alarm bells rang throughout the village. Boom. An explosion lit up the eastern wall. Naruto's expression changed completely. His carefree smile vanished. I'll check it out. Astria immediately followed. As they reached the wall, every shinobi present stood frozen in disbelief. Beyond the destroyed gate, hundreds of masked warriors dressed in black armor stood in perfect formation. None wore village headbands. None carried clan symbols. At their center stood a tall man holding a banner bearing an unfamiliar golden crest. He raised his voice so the entire village could hear. We have not come to wage war against Konoha. We have come for one person. His gaze locked onto Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki. The Council of the Six Forgotten Kingdoms formally requests that you surrender yourself peacefully. Quote. If you refuse, every nation on this continent will soon be dragged into the war of destiny. The wind howled across the battlefield. Naruto stepped forward, confused but resolute. I don't even know who you people are. Quote. The mysterious leader slowly drew a black blade that radiated ancient chakra. You will. And by the time you do, the age of ordinary shinobi will already be over. The black blade reflected the moonlight like a fragment of the night sky itself. No chakra leaked from it. No killing intent could be sensed. Yet every elite shinobi standing on Konoha's wall instinctively tightened their grip on their weapons. Even seasoned veterans felt an inexplicable pressure. The mysterious commander slowly lowered his sword. I will ask only once. Send Naruto Uzumaki with us. We have no desire to spill innocent blood. Tsunade stepped onto the wall, her green cloak fluttering behind her. Her amber eyes were cold. You march an army to my village. And call that peace. The commander met her gaze without fear. If peace is still possible, this is your final opportunity. Before Tsunade could answer, Naruto walked forward. What exactly do you want from me? The commander's expression softened slightly. You are the second chosen. Naruto frowned. Second chosen. Yes. The first one failed. The second one must succeed. Quote, you keep saying that, but nobody explains anything. The commander remained silent for several seconds. Then he sighed. Very well. You deserve to know at least this much. He raised his hand. One of the masked warriors stepped forward carrying an ancient wooden chest. The chest looked incredibly old, yet not a single crack marked its surface. The warrior carefully placed it on the ground. Click. The lid slowly opened. Inside rested a broken golden crown. Naruto stared at it. Quote, a crown. Astria's expression changed instantly. No. The commander nodded. So you recognize it. Astria took one slow step forward. The crown of eternity. It still exists. Every masked warrior bowed their heads. The commander spoke solemnly. It exists. Because no one has been worthy of wearing it. Naruto scratched his head. I feel like everyone except me understands what's going on. Astria looked toward him. The crown belongs only to the chosen husband. Naruto blinked. So you're saying that broken thing belongs to me? Not yet. The commander answered. It rejected the first chosen. It has waited over 1,000 years. Quote, if it accepts you, the 7 thrones will unite. Naruto sighed dramatically. I miss when my biggest problem was finding money for ramen. Several shinobi almost laughed despite the tense situation. Even Astria couldn't hide a faint smile. Deep inside Naruto's seal, Kurama remained completely focused on the broken crown. Quote, impossible. Naruto mentally looked toward the fox. You know it. I've seen it once. Quote, when I was young. Naruto's eyes widened. Kurama had lived for centuries. Back then, the world wasn't divided into villages. There were only kingdoms. And that crown stood above every king. Quote, suddenly, the broken crown emitted a faint golden light. Everyone froze. The commander slowly stepped back. It reacted. Astria whispered. It has never reacted before. The golden glow became brighter. Naruto instinctively took one step forward. Without warning, a tiny fragment detached from the broken crown. It floated into the air. Then, it shot directly toward Naruto. Everyone moved at once. Kakashi. Quote, Sakura. Protect Naruto. Too late. The fragment gently touched Naruto's forehead. Instead of exploding, it dissolved into golden particles. Naruto felt warmth spread throughout his body. His blue eyes briefly turned brilliant gold. The sky answered immediately. 7 enormous stars appeared above Konoha. Even though it was midnight, the stars shone brighter than the moon. Every person across the ninja world looked upward. Inside the hidden sand. Gaara stood atop the cage building. What? He watched the 7 stars. Behind him, Tamari unconsciously placed a hand over her chest. Her heartbeat had become strangely fast. I don't know why. Quote, but I feel like someone important just awakened. Inside the hidden mist, Mei Terumi walked onto her balcony. She looked toward the glowing sky. Her wrist burned. The golden symbol appeared once more. Unlike before, it remained visible. So, it's finally time. She smiled. I've waited long enough. Far across the ocean, the crimson-haired warrior stood upon the deck of her ship. She laughed as the 7 stars illuminated the sea. He accepted the first fragment. Her soldiers looked confused. My lady. She pointed east. Increase our speed. No matter what happens, we reach Konoha before the next full moon. Back at Konoha's gate. The mysterious commander slowly closed the wooden chest. Our mission ends here. Tsunade frowned. You're leaving. Yes. The crown has already made its choice. One Anbu captain shouted. You expect us to simply let you walk away? Quote. The commander calmly smiled. If we wished to fight, your village would already be burning. Several Jonin bristled at the remark. But before anyone could attack, the commander raised 2 fingers. Every masked warrior vanished simultaneously. Not with a body flicker. Not with flying thunder god. They simply disappeared, as though reality itself had swallowed them. Only footprints remained. Silence returned. Naruto slowly touched his forehead. I don't feel any different. Astria looked at him carefully. You will. It only accepted a fragment. The complete crown remains broken. Naruto sighed. Everything about my life just keeps getting weirder. Quote. The next morning, for the first time in years, Naruto overslept. When he finally woke up, sunlight filled his apartment. He rubbed his eyes. Quote. I'm late. He jumped out of bed. But the moment his feet touched the floor, he sensed something strange. His balance felt perfect. His hearing had become sharper. He could hear conversations taking place outside his apartment. He could distinguish individual birds hundreds of meters away. He frowned. What? Kurama chuckled. So you noticed. My senses. The crown fragment strengthened your soul. Naruto looked toward the window. It did all that, and that's only the beginning. As Naruto hurried through the village, people kept staring at him. Not because of Astria this time. Something about Naruto himself had changed. His blue eyes seemed brighter. His presence calmer. Children smiled at him without knowing why. Even stray animals followed him. An old shopkeeper whispered to his wife. Doesn't Naruto seem different today? She nodded slowly. He feels like sunlight. Naruto, completely unaware of the change, scratched the back of his head as everyone watched him. Why is everybody acting weird? Hidden in the shadows of a nearby rooftop, a young woman wearing a dark cloak observed Naruto in silence. Unlike the commander from the night before, she wore no mask. Her emerald eyes never left Naruto for even a second. She smiled faintly. So, the first fragment has awakened. She reached into her cloak and removed a small crystal. The crystal suddenly cracked by itself. The other kingdoms will know. She looked toward the horizon where dark storm clouds were beginning to gather. Now, the real race for the chosen husband begins. Far beyond the borders of the 5 great nations, 6 different forces changed their course at the exact same moment. Some sought to protect Naruto. Some sought to claim him. And at least one intended to ensure that the second chosen would meet the same tragic fate as the first. Morning sunlight spread across Konoha, but an unusual tension lingered in the air. Naruto walked through the village with his hands behind his head, trying to ignore the strange looks everyone kept giving him. Seriously, why is everyone staring at me today? He looked down at his jacket. Did I spill ramen on myself? Behind a nearby fruit stand, 2 academy students whispered. That's him, the one who made the sky change. My dad said even the Hokage couldn't explain it. Naruto sighed. So now everyone thinks I'm weird. Kurama chuckled from inside the seal. You've been called worse. Thanks. That really helps. Inside the Hokage tower, Tsunade had already gathered every available report. Maps covered the table. Ancient scrolls were spread across the floor. Kakashi leaned against the wall reading one scroll after another. Shizune entered carrying another pile. These came from the archives beneath the Senju estate. Quote. Tsunade immediately opened one. Most contained records of wars, clan histories, medical techniques. Nothing useful. Intel. One old scroll fell apart in her hands. Hidden inside it was another sheet written in faded golden ink. Tsunade frowned. This wasn't listed. Kakashi walked closer. What does it say? She slowly began reading aloud. When the 7 thrones awaken, the chosen husband shall unknowingly gather hearts before gathering kingdoms. Quote. Shizune looked confused. What does that mean? Kakashi answered quietly. It means destiny doesn't begin with power. It begins with trust. The scroll continued. Those who truly love the chosen shall strengthen fate. Quote. Those who seek to possess him shall strengthen calamity. Everyone became silent. Tsunade slowly placed the scroll down. So not everyone searching for Naruto is an ally. Kakashi nodded. And not every queen will necessarily arrive as a friend. Quote. Elsewhere, Astria stood alone near a lake outside the village. She slowly unsheathed her silver sword. The blade reflected the morning sun. She closed her eyes. For the first time in years, she prayed, please, let him succeed where the first chosen failed. Suddenly, a familiar voice spoke behind her. You still believe? Astria turned instantly. Standing several meters away was an elderly man wearing blue robes. His beard reached almost to the ground. He carried no weapon, only a wooden staff. Astria immediately lowered her head. Elder Orion, you followed me. The old man smiled. I followed fate. His eyes shifted toward Konoha. So, that boy is the second chosen. Astria nodded. Yes. What do you think of him? Astria smiled softly. He doesn't know how special he is. The old sage laughed. Good. The first chosen knew. Quote. And pride destroyed him. Naruto arrived at Training Ground 7. Sakura was already waiting. So you're finally here. Naruto grinned. I'm only. He checked the sun. A little late. Sakura crossed her arms. A little. Before Naruto could answer, Kakashi suddenly appeared. Good. You're both here. Naruto looked around. Where's Sasuke? He accepted a solo mission. Naruto nodded. Then Kakashi looked directly at him. Naruto, I want to test something. Several minutes later, the three stood inside a large clearing. Kakashi placed 3 wooden posts in a line. I don't want you using shadow clones. No Rasengan. Quote. No Kurama. Naruto blinked. Then what am I supposed to do? Punch the first post. Quote. That's it. That's it. Naruto shrugged. Okay. He walked toward the first post. This is kinda weird. Then casually threw a punch. Boom. The wooden post exploded into hundreds of pieces. The shockwave continued forward. The second post shattered. Then the third. The ground cracked for nearly 20 meters. Silence. Naruto slowly looked at his fist. Quote. Oops. Sakura's jaw dropped. You weren't even trying. Naruto stared at Kakashi. I swear, I barely used any strength. Kakashi already knew. The crown fragment had begun changing Naruto's body. Not by giving him chakra, but by perfecting how his own strength flowed. Hidden beneath Naruto's skin, tiny golden symbols briefly appeared before disappearing again. Kurama narrowed his eyes. So that's how. Quote. The 9 tails finally understood. The fragment wasn't making Naruto stronger. It was removing the limits his soul placed upon his own body. That afternoon, news arrived from every border. One messenger after another entered the Hokage office. The land of rivers has reported unknown warriors. The land of snow has gone completely silent. Several caravans disappeared near the western mountains. No signs of Akatsuki, but every incident happened within the last 24 hours. Quote. Tsunade folded her arms. They're moving. Kakashi nodded. They all sensed Naruto. Far across the sea, the crimson-haired warrior finally reached land. Waiting for her stood hundreds of soldiers. Each immediately knelt. My queen. She ignored them. Prepare the horses. One commander hesitated. Should we bring the army? She looked toward the east. No, this is not a war. It's a meeting. Then she smiled. If anyone starts a war before I reach Konoha, they'll answer to me. Meanwhile, hidden beneath an ancient volcano, a gigantic stone gate slowly opened. Dark smoke poured from the entrance. Inside sat a woman dressed entirely in black. Long violet hair reached the floor. Chains wrapped around her wrists. For hundreds of years, She had remained imprisoned voluntarily. Not because anyone could hold her, but because she had promised never to interfere with the outside world again. Suddenly, a single golden thread passed through the stone walls. It gently touched her forehead. Her eyes opened. They glowed deep violet. So, the Chosen has awakened. The chains binding her wrists instantly crumbled into dust. Outside, the volcano trembled. Villages hundreds of kilometers away felt the earthquake. People panicked. They believed the mountain was erupting. They had no idea. Someone far more dangerous had just awakened. That evening, Naruto stood on top of the Hokage monument again. The breeze felt peaceful. He still couldn't stop thinking about everything that had happened. Astria quietly joined him. You come here often. Naruto smiled. Yeah, I like looking at the village. It's beautiful. Astria followed his gaze. You love this place. Naruto nodded. More than anything. Quote, I want everyone here to smile. Astria looked at him silently. So simple, so impossible. Naruto laughed. I know, but that's my dream. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally Astria asked, what if destiny forces you to choose? Naruto frowned. Choose what? Your dream, or the 7 queens? Naruto looked at her in confusion. I don't even know the 7 queens. Astria's expression softened. I hope you never have to make that choice. At that exact moment, high above the clouds, the celestial woman stood before the wheel of fate. It had begun spinning faster. One divine guardian approached. The 3rd queen has awakened. The 4th has left her kingdom. The 5th is approaching the 5 great nations. The 6th remains hidden. And the 7th. The guardian hesitated. We still cannot locate her. Quote, the celestial woman's eyes narrowed. Impossible. The 7th throne should have awakened. Another guardian spoke quietly. There is one possibility. What? Quote, she doesn't know she is a queen. The celestial woman's expression changed for the first time. If that's true, then she is already living as an ordinary shinobi. Far below, inside Konoha, a young kunoichi unknowingly touched the faint golden mark hidden beneath her sleeve. She frowned. Strange. It appeared again. She looked toward the distant Hokage monument where Naruto stood talking with Astria. Without understanding why, her heart began beating faster. She quickly looked away, but the golden mark glowed even brighter. Hidden inside the Temple of Destiny, the 7th crystal flickered for the very first time. The old monk slowly opened his eyes. He whispered only 3 words. She remembers him. And at that same instant, somewhere beyond the horizon, a pair of blood-red eyes opened in the darkness. A cold voice echoed through an abandoned palace. So, the 2nd chosen has begun gathering the queens. Quote, a sinister smile spread across the unseen figure's face. Good. This time, I'll kill him before fate can complete its plan. The torches inside the palace burst into black flames, and an army that had remained hidden for 1,000 years began to march once more toward the 5 great nations. The cold wind swept across the Hokage monument as Naruto stood silently beneath the stars. He still didn't fully understand the meaning of fate, the 7 queens, or why the entire world had begun moving because of him. Astria stood beside him, gazing at the night sky. The final battle is approaching. Naruto smiled confidently. Then we'll stop it. Astria looked at him. You don't even know who the enemy is. Naruto folded his arms. I don't need to. If someone wants to hurt my friends or destroy my village, I'll fight them. For the first time, Astria understood why fate had chosen him. It wasn't because he was destined to become Hokage. It wasn't because he carried the 9 tails. It wasn't because of his bloodline. It was because Naruto always chose to protect others before himself. Far beyond the 5 great nations, the ancient palace hidden in darkness shook as the mysterious ruler finally stepped into the light. He wore black armor covered in golden cracks. His silver hair reached his waist, and his crimson eyes burned with hatred. He was the first chosen. Not dead, not forgotten, merely sealed for 1,000 years. I waited long enough. He looked toward the heavens where the wheel of fate continued spinning. You abandoned me, and chose another. He raised his hand. Black chakra engulfed the sky. I won't allow history to repeat itself. Quote. Thousands of ancient warriors awakened behind him. The second chosen will die. At the Temple of Destiny, the old monk immediately sensed the seal breaking. His face turned pale. No, he escaped. Quote. The celestial woman also felt it. Her calm expression disappeared. The first chosen has returned. One of the divine guardians whispered. Then the prophecy. She nodded. It has entered its final chapter. Quote. Several days later, the first chosen's army reached the border of the land of fire. Konoha's shinobi gathered outside the village. Tsunade stood at the front. Beside her were Kakashi, Sakura, Sasuke, the Konoha 11, and countless Jonin. Astria stood beside Naruto, her silver sword drawn. One after another, the remaining queens arrived. The Crimson Valkyrie stepped forward with her blazing spear. The Lightning Queen descended from the sky surrounded by silent thunder. The Shadow Queen emerged from the darkness. The remaining queens revealed themselves as well, each carrying unimaginable power. For the first time in history, the 7 queens stood together. Their eyes all turned toward Naruto. Without speaking, they took their places at his side. Not behind him, beside him. The wheel of fate above the heavens stopped spinning. A brilliant golden crown descended from the sky. The broken fragments gathered together, repairing themselves until the crown of eternity shone brighter than the sun. It floated before Naruto. No. The first chosen roared. It belongs to me. He charged forward, unleashing an ocean of black chakra. Naruto stepped toward the crown. I don't want power. I don't want to rule the world. Quote. I just want everyone to live in peace. The crown responded. It gently settled upon Naruto's head. A wave of golden light spread across the battlefield. Every trace of darkness was pushed back. The first chosen's black chakra shattered. His army dissolved into light. He fell to his knees, staring at Naruto. Quote. Why? Quote. Why did it choose you? Naruto walked toward him. Because I never wanted to own anyone. I wanted to protect everyone. Quote. The first chosen lowered his head. For 1,000 years, he had sought power to force destiny. Naruto had accepted destiny without abandoning his own heart. The darkness surrounding the first chosen disappeared. He smiled sadly. So, that's where I failed. His body slowly dissolved into golden particles. Don't repeat my mistake. Live. The life I couldn't. With those final words, he vanished forever. The golden light spread across the entire world. The wheel of fate disappeared. The 7 thrones crumbled into dust. The ancient prophecy had finally fulfilled its purpose. No more chosen husband. No more destined queens. Only people free to choose their own futures. The celestial woman smiled as she faded into the stars. At last, fate is no longer a prison. Months later, the ninja world entered an era unlike any before. The Forgotten Kingdoms reopened their borders. Ancient grudges ended. The 7 queens remained close to Naruto, not because a prophecy demanded it, but because they had come to respect and care for the person he was. Astria rebuilt her northern kingdom. The Crimson Valkyrie protected the western lands. The other queens returned to their people, united as allies instead of rivals. Naruto continued training, laughing with his friends, eating too much ramen, and chasing his dream of becoming Hokage. One evening, as he sat at Ichiraku Ramen, Tsuki laughed. So, Naruto, after everything you've been through, what did you learn? Naruto smiled the same smile he had worn since childhood. That destiny can point you toward a path. Quote. But the way you walk it is always your own choice. Everyone around him smiled. Above Konoha, the stars shone peacefully. For the first time in 1,000 years. There was no prophecy left to fulfill. Only a future waiting to be written.